Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because, well, we are going back in time to explore one of the most bizarre, visceral, and frankly gross events in human history. Imagine, if you will, the richest, most powerful empire in the entire world. An empire that spanned the globe and commanded just unmatched resources, being brought to an absolute grinding standstill by its own literal sludge. We're talking about the infamous Great Stink of 1858 in London. It's a story of a terrifying public health nightmare, an environmental disaster of just epic proportions, and a desperate race to save a city from drowning in its own filth. Okay, let's dive into this.
Lawmakers literally covered their windows with chemically soaked curtains to escape the horrific smell of human waste. I want you to really just sit with the reality of that for a second. We aren't talking about a mildly unpleasant odor wafting through the air on a hot summer day. No, we are talking about a physical, suffocating presence. The stench radiating from the River Thames was so incredibly potent that the wealthiest, most insulated politicians in the British Empire were literally trapped in their chambers. They were desperately hiding behind curtains, drenched in chloride of lime, just trying to neutralize the odor. And they weren't just doing this because it smelled bad. Back in the 1850s, people genuinely believed that the smell itself was a deadly vapor that could strike them down. It's an unbelievable picture, right? A global superpower pushed to the absolute brink of panic.
Chapter 1: A River of Waste. To truly understand this impending disaster, we kind of have to look at how mid-19th century London actually functioned.
Step 1. Human waste leaves the rapidly multiplying households of London. But here is the fascinating historical twist. This crisis was actually accelerated by a relatively new invention, the flushing toilet. Suddenly, middle-class households were pumping vastly more water and waste into these ancient, medieval cesspits that were never, ever designed to hold liquid. So, step 2. Because those cesspits were suddenly overflowing, that raw, untreated waste flushed directly out into the open city streets and old drainage channels. And then, step 3, which is definitely the most terrifying part, all of that waste emptied straight into the River Thames, the exact same river that served as the city's primary drinking water supply. And to make matters infinitely worse, the Thames is a tidal river, so that meant the raw sewage didn't just wash out to sea. Instead, the ocean tides pushed this massive wall of waste up and down the city banks twice a day, every single day. It was a perfectly closed, inescapable loop of contamination.
Chapter 2: Parliament Cannot Escape. The narrative now shifts from a chronic, everyday problem to an acute, suffocating crisis. Before 1858, you have this massive, relentless accumulation of human waste in the Thames, just sloshing back and forth with the tide. But then we hit the ultimate catalyst, the summer of 1858. A record-breaking, totally unprecedented heat wave arrives in London. Temperatures soared into the high 90s, and the boiling summer sun literally baked the raw sewage that was trapped on the sluggish riverbanks. The heat acted as the ultimate trigger. It fermented the sludge and turned a terrible situation into a suffocating citywide emergency. By late 1858, the Great Stink peaks, and as a direct result, outbreaks of a horrific disease, cholera, begin to spread rapidly through the population. And that brings us to a really stark contrast in how this disaster was experienced across class lines. For everyday Londoners, this was a daily, gruesome reality. They were the ones living in the cramped streets nearest the river, drawing buckets of contaminated water, and bearing the brutal brunt of deadly cholera outbreaks. Meanwhile, the members of Parliament had historically remained completely insulated from the city's decay. That is, until the stench became so paralyzing in their chambers that they seriously considered packing up the entire national government and fleeing to Oxford or St. Albans just to escape the smell. So the crucial point is that it was really only when the politicians themselves were physically gagging and held hostage by the river that massive, sweeping action was finally considered. Chapter 3: The Shocking Disease Connection. The smell was horrifying, but the water itself was a lethal weapon. To understand the true stakes of the Great Stink, we have to look at the medical beliefs of the time. The Victorians operated under something called the miasma theory. They firmly believed that deadly diseases like cholera were spread by bad, foul-smelling air, literally the miasma. The tragic irony of the Great Stink is that they were absolutely right to be terrified, but entirely wrong about why. They were desperately covering their faces, thinking that breathing the stink coming off the choked river would kill them. In reality, the danger wasn't in the air at all. Because the same river was being used for the city's drinking water, they were actively drinking bacteria-infested water. When that boiling summer heat hit,
it turned the Thames into a massive incubator for cholera bacteria. This resulted in a shocking, undeniable connection to disease that was wiping out tens of thousands of citizens. It was a staggering public health nightmare that required an immediate, monumental intervention. Chapter 4: Rebuilding London Underground. Facing total collapse, the city finally had to act.
Enter the hero of our explainer, Joseph Bazalgette. He was the chief engineer tasked with the impossible. Bazalgette is the brilliant mind behind the massive solution that completely rebuilt London Underground to fix the Great Stink. And what's really incredible about Bazalgette is his sheer persistence. He had actually been proposing comprehensive sewer plans for years, but the government repeatedly ignored and rejected them because of the immense cost. It took the overwhelming, undeniable terror of the Great Stink to finally force Parliament to listen to him. His grand vision wasn't just to patch a few pipes, He planned a sprawling, modern sewerage system that would intercept the waste before it ever reached the Thames, hiding it deep beneath the city streets. 1858. This single year carries immense historical weight. It marks the absolute breaking point, for sure, but it also marks a staggering legislative miracle. After years of doing absolutely nothing, the smell was so profoundly terrible in the summer of 1858 that the paralyzed Parliament rushed through a massive bill to completely fund and rebuild the city's sewers in just 18 days. 18 days. Driven purely by their own physical disgust and fear for their lives, lawmakers initiated an unprecedented scale of engineering. It was the year London decided to finally permanently separate its raw waste from its drinking water supply. The scope of Bazalgette's engineering solution is honestly hard to wrap your head around, even by today's standards. He and his armies of workers constructed 82 miles of main intersecting sewers and over 1,100 miles of street sewers. To build this massive modern system, they used an astonishing 318 million bricks, successfully rebuilding the city's infrastructure entirely underground. In doing so, they completely transformed London from a filthy, archaic metropolis into a truly modern, functioning city. But perhaps the absolute most brilliant aspect of Bazalgette's design was his foresight. He purposefully designed the tunnels to be significantly larger than what the current population needed, planning for future growth. That brilliant decision is exactly why London still relies on his very same sewer system today. Most importantly, this incredible feat of engineering solved the cholera public health nightmare forever. The waste was diverted downriver, the Thames began to heal, and the horrifying spread of waterborne disease was stopped in its tracks. Which brings us to why this deeply strange, quirky historical tale actually matters to us today. The Great Stink wasn't just a bad few weeks in London, it was literally the birth of modern civil engineering and urban sanitation. Bazalgette's underground network became the blueprint for expanding cities all over the globe. Every single time you turn on a tap and get clean water, or flush a toilet without a second thought, you are benefiting from the lessons learned during this disgusting, terrifying, and ultimately transformative event. Millions of lives across the world have been saved because a river in 1858 smelled so bad that the most powerful government on earth had no choice but to finally fix it. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. Could you have survived the Great Stink? Just imagine dealing with that suffocating 90-degree heat, the terrifying cholera outbreaks, and a stench so bad it brought the entire British Empire to its knees. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you found this explainer helpful and enjoyed this strange chapter of history, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves weird history. And definitely tell us your survival odds in the comments below. Thanks so much for learning with me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.